Okay, so you're here, which means you're ready to level up, right?
Mhm.
We're not talking about quick fixes or life hacks here.
No, not at all.
This is about real, lasting self-improvement.
Yeah,
That deep dive into how we can become better versions of ourselves.
exactly. And it's so relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when the world feels like it's asking more and more from us constantly.
Yeah. And I think you've picked some really insightful sources for us to dig into for this deep dive.
Yeah, I try to find stuff that will really resonate with our listeners.
Yeah.
So before we jump in, can you give me a little bit of an overview of what you're seeing in the research in terms of like overarching themes?
Well, one thing that really struck me when I was going through everything is that a lot of these sources talk about self-improvement as a process,
Okay.
not like a destination you reach.
Right.
It's more about constantly evolving and becoming better versions of ourselves.
So it's not like you check a box and you're done.
Right. It's like you're crafting your own personal operating
Oh,
system,
that's a great analogy.
constantly refining how you think, act, and react to the world.
Okay, so we're talking about like rewiring ourselves from the inside out.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Absolutely. So, one of the books you shared, Atomic Habits by James Clear,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
he talks about the power of making tiny changes but consistently over time.
I've heard of that.
Like he uses this analogy of an ice cube melting.
Okay.
A 1 degree shift in temperature won't seem like much at first, but keep raising the temperature, and you reach this tipping point where the whole cube transforms into water.
I see. So it's those small, consistent changes that can lead to some pretty major shifts down the line.
Right.
But how does this rewiring actually translate into a better life? Like, what's the payoff?
Well, let's take mental health, for example.
Okay.
One of the articles you sent over had this fascinating study from Harvard,
Oh, yeah.
and it showed how mindfulness meditation can physically change the structure of your brain.
What? Really?
Yeah, specifically the areas that regulate stress and emotional responses. Wow.
So they found that just 8 weeks of consistent mindfulness practice led to a decrease in the size of the amygdala, which is like the brain's fear center.
So it's not just some like feel good concept.
Right.
There's actual science backing up the benefits.
Exactly. And that resilience we talked about earlier,
Right.
it's literally being strengthened as your brain learns to respond differently to challenges.
That's huge. And I can't help but think about how this all connects to career success too,
Absolutely.
because it's not just about hard skills anymore, right?
Yeah. All the sources you picked really emphasize the importance of soft skills,
Like what?
like emotional intelligence.
Yep.
There was a book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0,
Yeah.
that argued that self-awareness and the ability to manage our emotions are some of the most important predictors of career success.
Interesting.
They even said it's twice as important as technical skills and cognitive ability combined.
Wow, that's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
So someone who's really good at understanding their own emotions and how they impact others.
Yeah. They might actually have a leg up, even if they aren't the most technically skilled person in the room.
Exactly, because when you're self-aware, you're more adaptable, you're a better collaborator,
Right.
you're more effective at handling conflict.
Makes sense.
All qualities that employers really value these days.
So we've covered mental toughness,
Yeah.
career skills.
Yeah.
What about personal relationships?
Yeah.
How does self-improvement play a role there?
Well, one of the articles highlighted active listening as this like really key skill
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
for building stronger relationships. And it's about really focusing on what the other person is saying,
Ah.
not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Yeah.
The author argued that this level of attentiveness shows respect, it builds trust,
Yeah,
it can even help diffuse conflict.
that's so true. It makes you wonder how many misunderstandings could be avoided if we all just practiced active listening a bit more.
Right.
But let's face it, we all get stuck in those ruts sometimes.
Yeah.
You know those days where your motivation dips and that voice of self-doubt creeps in?
Oh, absolutely.
How do we overcome those roadblocks?
Well, there's this book you included, Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Yeah.
And she has this really empowering message about the power of believing in our ability to grow and change.
Okay.
She talks about the difference between a fixed mindset where
Yeah.
we see our abilities as set in stone
Yeah.
and a growth mindset where we believe that we can actually develop our talents through hard work and learning.
So instead of saying, I'm just not good at this,
Right.
someone with a growth mindset would say, I'm not good at this yet.
Exactly. It's about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth,
Oh, I like that.
not threats to our ego.
Okay, that's a good distinction.
And that shift in perspective can make a huge difference when it comes to overcoming obstacles and achieving our goals.
Okay, I'm feeling pumped.
Good.
So how can we apply all of this? Where do we even begin?
Well, your sources suggest a pretty practical approach.
Okay.
Start by identifying one specific area you'd like to improve. It could be anything. It could be time management, communication, or even just cultivating a more positive attitude.
Right.
Once you've got that focus, set a realistic goal
Uh,
and break it down into smaller steps. Remember that ice cube analogy?
yeah. Small, consistent efforts. So
Exactly.
no need to overhaul your entire life overnight.
No, not at all.
Just pick one thing and start small.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try different techniques, track your progress, and adjust your approach as you go. The journey itself is a learning process.
And that's what makes it so exciting, right? We're constantly evolving and becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Precisely. It's a lifelong journey of discovery and growth.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to take that first step.
Me too.
And for anyone listening, remember the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. What will your first step be?
I think that's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Yeah, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
All right, till next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.